You've probably heard it a million times, right? To get people to share what they know at work, you pay them for it. But what if that idea isn't just a little off? What if it actually makes things worse? We're about to dive into a study that flips that entire concept on its head. Look, it's no secret that in today's world, what a company knows is its biggest superpower. I mean, it's the bedrock of innovation, the thing that keeps you ahead of the competition. The collective brain power of your team, that's the real gold. So that brings us to the million-dollar question for any leader out there. All this incredible knowledge is locked away inside people's heads. How on earth do you get them to open up and willingly share their expertise, their hard-won experience, and all their best ideas with everybody else? Well, a really fascinating study dug into this exact problem. And what the researchers found is that our go-to solution, our first instinct, doesn't just fall flat, it can totally backfire. Okay, so first, let's talk about the conventional wisdom. The standard playbook most companies use when they think about sharing knowledge. The whole idea, as this quote really nails, is that having stuff, like buildings and machines, isn't the key to winning anymore. It's all about intellectual capital. The skills, the know-how, the collective intelligence of your people. That's what really drives a company's value today. And so, naturally, we fall back on classic economics. The most common tool we reach for is rewards. The thinking is super straightforward. If you want someone to do something, you offer them a bonus, a shot at a promotion, some kind of tangible perk. It seems perfectly logical, right? But does that simple logic actually hold up when you put it to the test in the real world? Let's get into the investigation and see what happened. So the researchers went to a very specific place, Thailand's super competitive pharmaceutical industry. They surveyed 374 people, from sales reps all the way up to managers, to figure out what was really truly driving their decision to share what they knew. And they basically sorted all the possible motivators into 3 big buckets. First up, you've got the economic stuff, the promise of a reward. Then there are the social psychological factors, things like your relationships with coworkers and your own sense of self-worth. And finally, the sociological bucket, which is all about the overall vibe of the place, the organizational climate, trust, fairness, feeling like you belong. And this right here is where things get really, really interesting. The researchers crunched the numbers, and the results were, they were not what anyone would have predicted. Let's look at the surprising truth they found. It turns out that the single most common motivator, the one we just talked about, dangling a reward, wasn't just the least effective. It actually had a negative impact. And saying least effective is actually putting it way too nicely. Yeah. Look at this number. The study found a statistically significant link of -0.13 between expecting a reward and having a positive attitude about sharing. Let me translate that for you. Offering individual rewards didn't just fail to motivate people. It was actively linked to a worse attitude about sharing knowledge. It actually got in the way. So if rewards are out, what actually works? Think of this model from the study as a kind of roadmap to what makes us tick at work. Over on the far right, you see the goal, getting people to actually intend to share knowledge. The study found that's driven by 2 big things: their personal attitude about sharing and what the researchers call subjective norms, which is just a fancy way of saying, what do I think my team expects me to do? So, what drives those things? Well, look to the left. It's not rewards. It's things like reciprocal relationships and a healthy company culture built on trust and fairness. Those are the real engines. The takeaway here is just so clear. This is a story of we over me. The motivators that worked were all about the group. Individual rewards, they totally backfired. Even something as personal as your own sense of self-worth didn't directly move the needle on your attitude. But the we motivators, wow, incredibly powerful. Things like goodwill with your colleagues and feeling like you're part of a team. That's what really got people to open up. So that just begs the question, why? Why would individual rewards fail so miserably while group dynamics work so well? Well, the answer is all about culture. Remember, this study happened in Thailand, which is what you'd call a collectivist culture. In societies like that, the group's goals and harmony are way more important than individual wins. From a young age, people are really taught to think in terms of we, not I. And there's this amazing cultural concept in Thailand that illustrates this perfectly. Bang kun. It's this idea of indebted goodness. It means if someone does something nice for you, you feel this really deep psychological pull to return that kindness. It creates this powerful natural cycle of people helping each other out, and it's a force way, way stronger than any bonus could ever be. And as the researchers themselves said, when the group's opinion is what really matters, dangling individual rewards can actually create problems. It can make people feel like they're competing with their own teammates, which messes up the group harmony and destroys the trust you need for people to share openly in the first place. Okay, so what does all of this mean for you, right now, in your job? Well, the study gives us a super clear, actionable playbook for any leader who seriously wants to build a culture of sharing. The big takeaway here is to stop trying to buy knowledge and start cultivating an environment where it grows naturally. So do focus on building real social bonds. Think about mentorship programs. Do obsess over creating a climate of real trust where people feel safe. And hey, if you are going to use rewards, make them team-based so everyone wins together. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a collectivist culture. What about my office in, say, New York? And that's a fair question. But while the tactics might need to be tweaked, the core principle is universal. Fostering a real sense of community and mutual trust taps into a fundamental human need. The goal is to make sharing knowledge feel less like a transaction and a lot more like helping out a friend. And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. In your organization, what's the real currency of knowledge? Is it cold, hard cash, which, as we've seen, might actually be devaluing it? Or is it something far more powerful and a lot more human? Trust, relationships, and a genuine sense of being in it together.